So we're back again with the Momentum Podcast. Today I'm here with a brother, a co-owner, a co-trainer, Lawrence Barnett, who's been a key developer in the city for some time when it comes to athletes and really just helping them out as much as possible. And so, talking about, being able to train at a high level, this is what he does, and he does it really, really well. And he's been able to establish himself as a really good trainer in the area, and just really what he's done with his craft. And so, I'll let you kind of dive in, give the people a glimpse of who you are, and then we'll just go in from there.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name's Lawrence Barnett, born and raised in Fort Wayne. My parents are from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and I always like to say that when I introduce myself because I think with the things going on in the world right now, and just understanding what it is to be an immigrant in the United States and the struggle they had to go through, and them being together, being able to raise me and my sister with just very little access, very little, knowledge on how to, the way the United States really works, being able to, just being able to mold me and my sister into the young man and woman she is today. I think I always like to introduce myself with that. But, the way I got into training was just basically one of my mentors taking me and creating what you talked about, athletes with a purpose, and, me being one of his first athletes that he's trained, and then just going through that process over the last 17 years. And then now traction, I think that is, a big reason why I'm into training now, and a big reason why, I do what I do now. So.
And does it at a high level. And, I know today, you wanted to kind of hit on, and we'll hit on consistency and priorities, and what's the priorities for athletes, and what's the priority for parents. And, at another time, we'll talk about priorities for coaches. But last, a couple podcasts ago, you said that you heard me speaking on just really, removing yourself from situations and really servicing other people, and being able to teach and educate, and not be so much of a dictator. Can you kind of speak to us about the pathology of your training, and how you started and to where you were, and kind of the evolution that you had to take to get to where you were?
Yeah. So for me, like you hit it on the nail on your first podcast when you talked about trainers, and I don't know if you were talking just strictly Fort Wayne or trainers in general, but too many times we work on an athlete and we don't work on ourselves. So I think when I became a part of AWP, obviously I had a lot of things I needed to work on myself, and I leaned on you and Michael Lito to help me with that. And I think as a trainer, to the point where I started in 2013, 2014, I was more of a drill sergeant, like you said. I just came out and was just doing drills with guys, and it looked good, but in some aspect people were getting better, but I wasn't really seeing the complete result of an athlete, and I think when you say complete result, it's one thing for an athlete to go out and score a couple points, get an interception, get a touchdown, but I think it's different when you talk about actually serving and seeing the complete result of an athlete, where you talk about their thoughts, the way they carry themselves, the way they speak, the way they do everything as a character, not just an athlete outside of the sport. I wasn't doing that my first year of training, I would say. So then me going into training, really diving in, I had to check myself. When you talked about the beliefs in yourself, I had to check myself and understand that, when I was good as a player, I really had a strong belief that I was going to go out there and do something and play well, execute the plan and all that stuff. So I had to figure out how to take that experience and get it into a player. So, that was me working on myself, being able to believe in myself as a trainer, and then also to be able to go out and then, show the kid that, all right, if I believe in myself, and I can get you to believe in yourself, then we can probably, build the complete athlete. So, my training started off with, like I said, just doing the drills. And then over time, once you get kids that you connect to on a different level outside of sports, I think you figure out how to make it come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Actually, how to make, a player remove themselves from the sport, work on their mind, and then kind of alter their belief in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of my first players that I ended up doing that, I started training a kid that went to he got a scholarship at St. Francis, Blake Schumacher, but me training him, luckily he was already a good kid with good character.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do too much, I didn't have to do too much. It was just more drills. So I was able to help him get a scholarship, but at the same time, there was something lacking in my training.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the whole character development part, the whole using football as just a vehicle, or using sports as just a vehicle to do greater things that you and Mike kind of had already started with people like Austin Mack, Ben Skoranek, and all those guys you mentioned in that first one. So I took that and was able to, work on myself to be able to, put together something like a progression. I never did progressions to start. I would just go out there and do drills. I didn't, I didn't take like the actual understanding of the game and characteristics of the game or the position, and then be able to apply that into training. There was never that. So I was able to do that. And then also I ended up tying the human development point that you guys talk about a lot, using sessions as not just training physically, but also mentally. Being able to take a failure and learn how to analyze that failure, because the position that I train, the position that we play, there's going to be a lot more failures than wins.
Mm-hmm.
So me being able to take that and teach kids how to analyze that failure into something greater than, or really not greater, but really just take that failure and analyze it to get the result that they wanted, and knowing that they always had to believe that they were going to get that result. One thing that I always talked about to a lot of my kids is like, the vision that you want, to go D1, to play in the NFL, the vision that you want, that's easy. That's the easy part, to be able to create a vision and create a goal. But that, when we talk about priorities and consistency, the consistency and always believing in yourself, even when you're failing, that's when you be able to manifest that result you want eventually. So that's a big thing that I started to tie into my training, to tie into, coaching 7-on-7, the defensive players, because I just knew that that's the biggest thing. If we can be able to analyze failure, and be able to still know what our vision is after we fail over and over again, I think that's how we'll be able to, get the results that we want in the long run. So
absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And then, you speak about adding the character development into the actual training. And one of the things I know here at Traction Athletic Performance that we focus on, and the staff knows this, the players know it that have been around for a long time, and we're trying to do our best to orientate new young individuals as we go, is that, anytime you're dealing with a coach, a trainer, a parent, anytime there's an authoritative figure, as it relates to activities and achievements that you want to accomplish, anytime, for sure in a physical, anytime that you have one of us that only focuses on the physical, then we're doing a disservice to the individual by only focusing on the physical. And we actually are failing the individual by only focusing on that and not working with the mind. And so Donovan Martin has been really critical for us, because Donovan Martin works on the mental. And we have a whole department that's focused on mental performance, which is, giving a child the opportunity to understand their process, to really, figure themselves out, to go inward and to really achieve what it is that they desire to achieve. And I think when you say that that's what you started to incorporate, I think that, oftentimes, when you see, because children are, obviously they got to learn. They have to understand what's important and learn what's important and they don't often know right away, as we didn't know at a certain point what's really important is that, you know, we can go on Instagram, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Facebook, and you can see people working out, and that's the attractive thing. But the thing that is the most important aspect of all of this is, you know, after you get finished training an athlete, how much time do you actually talk to the athlete? How much time do you actually invest in the athlete? Is it just a, you know, pay me the money and, you know, you come here and train and that's it? Or are you really giving these children something that they can actually take and actually be, you know, and improve their self on, and then to be successful later on in life? And I think oftentimes, you know, we focus on the surface, and we want to get in and out. We want to make the money the easy way and not really put a full investment into it. And so I think that is a critical thing. And, you know, obviously you speak about how things started to improve when you start working on the physical and the mental, and you started connecting. You know, watching you evolve, because I've been able to see it, you know, for myself, and watching where you started and watching you evolve to where you are. You know, you went from being I would say a regular trainer, you know, just having a desire to help, to getting to a point where now you're training Jalen, Jesse, and, you know, Keon Brooks, and you're training elite level players. Can you talk to us about really the simplicity of the training that you do, that it can go from somebody that just started playing to all the way to that point, because it's a movement focus in the first place?
Yeah. So I think, you know, when you talk about starting off as a regular trainer, then evolving, I think that's the key word in it, is evolving. You know, as a trainer, you always have to be learning. I mean, when we talk about consistency and priorities today, you know, as a trainer, you always have to be consistent in building your IQ. You know, you always got to be consistent in learning the game that you're actually training, because that way it's easier for you to be able to prioritize workouts, be able to know what stages a player is supposed to be training at, if he's supposed to be at a general prep beginner stage, or if he's supposed to be at the end of the phase of, you know, power or strength or something like that. So you consistently working on yourself and, you know, teaching yourself, you know, the actual IQ points of the game or games that you're training, then I think that's the way you continue to evolve. And then also, you know, just when we talk about priorities and consistency, again, you know, I think if you think about priority, the word priority and the word consistency, it means nothing but a strong habit. Both of those words just equal strong habits. So I think that, you know, for me, I think what happened was I was training a lot. I think I went probably 3 or 4, maybe I'd say 3 years of training, and really nobody really knew that or people probably knew because I would always post myself working out, but I don't think people really believed in me to be a trainer. I always, like I told, you know, about the belief aspect, and you talked about like the way I am as a trainer now. I always believed I was a trainer when I first, like, as good of a trainer I am now. I thought of myself as being that same trainer 6 years ago. You know what I mean? I really did. Like, I really haven't changed much. There might be some things that I've tweaked, but I think the biggest thing that happened for me is I stayed consistent in what I believed in myself to do. And then people ended up taking note of it. You know, when we talk about Jesse, for example, he would come home and we would do a lot of field stuff. Even though I knew I could probably be like, hey man, let's go over here in the weight room. You know, I never really pressed it on him, but it came to a point where I was always documenting, putting on social media, you know, just showing myself and showing people around me that follow me that, you know, I'm a beast in the weight room. You know what I mean? Like, just to be honest, like, I just started showing that, and to the point where I think that was the reason where, you know, even though Corona happened and it's a pandemic, but in the blessing of Corona with Jesse coming home and him seeing me do the same thing consistently over and over, to be able to work hard, train my body, to look or do whatever, you know what I mean, be able to beast workouts the way I did, I think it caused him to reach out to me and just be like, hey, LB, like, I'm gonna be home. I want to train with you in the weight room, not only on the field. And with me staying consistent, it just opened the door for me to get a high level player like Jesse to trust in me, to be able to like take my own progression, take everything that I've been building over the last 6 years and apply it for him, and he saw the results from it. So I think that's for me, I think I just stayed consistent in learning. I stayed consistent in actually applying what I was learning for myself to the point that people just ended up taking note of it.
No, absolutely. And I know, are you a video gamer?
Yeah, I play video games every now and then. Yeah.
I haven't played in a while.
I just played one game, Call of Duty, though. I don't know how to play. I suck at everything else.
Yeah, I'm not a video gamer, but I do know, obviously, you know, being young, when I was younger, and I don't know if it's that way today, but there's always levels that you want to reach when you play video games. And the ultimate aim of a video game is to get to the last level, to defeat it, to conquer. I think there's only been one game ever that I've ever gotten past, and it was when I was in college, and I had a lot of time with myself, and I don't even think it was a popular game, but I played it. Single person game. But a lot of times when you play video games, you'll see it. Children are looking for cheat codes.
Right.
I used to look for cheat codes all the time. And it was complicated on how you had to do this and press this. But when you talk about unlocking levels and unlocking potential, there's a statement that I heard, and I don't know who said it, but whoever said it, it was an awesome statement. It says that consistency is the only cheat code. And so consistency is the only cheat code. And so cheat codes are to unlock levels. If we're trying to unlock certain levels, we have to be able and be willing to be consistent in our approach, in our production, in whatever realm it is that we're trying to, get to certain levels at. And when I watch you and you talk about the consistency you had to bring day in and day out, and how there was a moment where you could have captured it, but you wanted to, sit back and really just, evaluate and assess the situation. And then when the time was right, you took advantage of it. And so you were consistent, but not only consistent, you took time out to really assess where you were to see, okay, if I take advantage of this situation now, maybe it won't be the best. But if I take care of the situation now, later on, because of my consistency, now I'm able to actually take what I've actually been able to do and be able to show the product of it. And I believe this was the offseason that Jesse gained a tremendous amount of weight, or, you can elaborate, but he gained a good amount of weight. And that was one of the things prior to going into the season was, is he thick enough to hit and, to be in the lead and really take that pounding as a safety who comes up and hits. And so I think that's a testament to what you did, is that you were consistent enough to unlock levels. Now everybody knows who LB is. Years ago, nobody so much knew who LB was on the training level. They may knew him on a personal level, but the training level is what you unlock. And, you do such a great job training Jalen and Jesse. I've watched it where you can break stuff down and you can elaborate and give them understanding on what it is they need to work on. Whereas in the past, because you were a drill sergeant, it was, we're going to do this drill, this drill, this drill, this drill. And so, one of the things that I do want to mention is, for parents, for players, a priority, and this is speaking to me. When I speak, I'm speaking to myself too, because I can always improve. But a priority is something that, when you look at the base word of priority, it's prior. So a priority is something that you do at the beginning, or do something you do it the first time when you wake up, and then you do it the most. And so when you have a priorities, obviously there has to be balance, right? And so everything's not a priority. Some things aren't important, some things are important. And whatever it is that is important, whatever it is that is your foundation, you must do it prior to anything that you do, and you must do it longer than anything that you do. And it is in that priority or that mindset that allows you to get the big things done and the focuses accomplished versus just doing anything. So, El, can you, obviously you work with a lot of players, from a DB standpoint, and just, you work with, whether it's, an adult or something that you want to train, but you have a really good portfolio as it relates to who you train. What is the amount of success that you see coming out of it based on them adopting consistency, adopting priorities in comparison to those who don't?
Yeah, so I mean, I've struggled. That's one thing that I'm still working on myself with, is to be able to capture more athletes. I'm obviously, we train a lot of guys right now between me and you here at Traction. I think I probably train like maybe anywhere from 25 to 30 athletes, but there's always those athletes. I talk to you all the time about certain athletes that I feel like I personally failed because they didn't reach the goals that they wanted to. But then again, I had to self-reflect and look at myself and be like, all right, well, what didn't I do right? What didn't I do wrong? Or what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And I think that the biggest thing that I didn't do, which we have started getting to a lot this year, is meeting with the parents more regular. I think there was times where, the kids' priority was probably not right because the parents didn't 100% make it a priority for them to make sure that the kids' priority was right. Now, let me say that again. So like the kids' priorities weren't right because the parents weren't always making it a priority to make sure that the kids' priority was right. So when I think about the word priority, I grew up reading John Maxwell a lot. And, on the meal plan that I give to my kids, at the top of the meal plan, it says clarity of vision creates clarity of priorities. So I always thought that the kids that came in with the vision and didn't meet it is because their priorities weren't right. Even though we tried to do the character development, the human development, but when they left here, what we taught them a lot, since I didn't, probably make it a priority to talk to the parents a lot and get it to the parents, I think that when the kids went home, they weren't consistent with their priorities. And that consistency with that priorities, like I said at the beginning, is what creates strong habits. A lot of times, I talk to parents and they're like, well, I can't get him motivated to do this. I can't get him to do that. And I'm just like, well, if you don't have to motivate him, if you teach him if you teach a player how to have strong habits, they'll that's their motivation right there. Yep. You don't need to have habits. You just need to, what's the saying you said? You don't need to motivate the kids. They just need to build strong habits. So if you have strong habits to the point where, like you said, prior to everything they do, they make it consistent to always do those things that they know that they're supposed to do, whether it's getting up and looking at your goals. You know what I mean? Getting up and doing the stretches that you're supposed to do, getting up and reading what you're supposed to read. I think if you make those habits and you stay consistent with those habits, I think that's when you see the most results. So I think self-reflecting on myself, which I'm doing a lot now. We've already had 2 different parent meetings already. Yeah. I think getting the parents more involved to understand how to teach their kids about priorities and consistency, I think that's the biggest thing that I need to work on myself to continue to reach more athletes that I'm training currently.
But that is why I know the scriptures for you scriptural readers, and the scriptures talk about training the child up in the way they should go. And when they get older, they won't deviate. And I think that's one of the things is, we gotta be able to put ourselves in the mindset to train children up in the way they should go. And that's not to, dictate anything, but it's a habit. And anytime you have a habit, it's something that you repeatedly do. And, habits determine if you're successful or if you fail. But I wanna kind of adjust a little bit because we only got about 3 minutes, but I wanted to speak on not just the priorities of the individual, but I do want to elaborate on a certain thing certain aspect that kind of I struggle with a little bit as I get a little bit older and learn. What is the priority for a child? What is the priority for a parent? The priority for a parent is to provide the child with the best opportunity to be successful and the best opportunity to grow. And so that leads me to this point. We have to, as a culture, we have to, as people, have to understand the difference between value and cost. A lot of times we look at cost and we disregard the value. And what happens is, it's expensive to get to where you want to go to, but it's even more expensive to fall short of where you want to go to because you didn't take advantage of certain things. And so, can you kind of hit on the value versus cost? Because I think that's really an issue. You know, you get what you pay for, and so when you are trying to find a cheap way out, you're gonna find a quick way out.
Oh yeah. So I think when you talk of one, back to the priorities, you sit here and people ask me, LB, how much does it cost to train with you? I heard it's expensive. And I was just, sometimes when you hear that, I'm just like, all right, well, it's only expensive depending on what you value. And I think if you value, when you talk about, I think Mike used to say all the time, it's like you walk in the space of a millionaire and you don't ask a millionaire how he got $1 million. Like, what was that? How did you get $1 million? And I'm not saying I'm going to help people get $1 million, but I just know that if you value getting better, then you wouldn't worry about the cost that the cost of training with me. Because, or like no matter what, you see that the results are the results, and the results come from that consistency of people training. But the people that were consistently training with us, they also valued the training that they were getting to the point that the cost didn't even matter. But what I struggle with, and when we talk about priorities, is players and parents thinking that something that could potentially, not saying it's guaranteed, but can potentially get you a scholarship for $40,000 or $100,000
can
change your life, but then you spend $1,000 on a new PS5. You know what I mean? Like, what was the value of that PS5? So I think that's something that I struggle with when we talk about value over cost and priorities.